Most people think of paper towels as one of the most harmless products in their home. They wipe down kitchen counters, dry their hands, absorb grease from food, or clean a child's high chair without a second thought. After all, it's just paper, right? But that assumption is exactly where the problem begins. Many paper towel brands quietly contain chemicals that most people would never knowingly bring into their kitchens. What if the paper towel you use every single day, the one that touches your hands, your surfaces, and sometimes even your food, carries residues linked to hormone disruption, immune system damage, and long-term health risks? It sounds extreme, yet environmental and consumer safety studies have been raising these concerns for years. The issue starts at the manufacturing stage. To make paper towels appear extra white, soft, and highly absorbent, many brands rely on aggressive chemical processes. These often include chlorine bleaching, chemical binders, synthetic additives, and recycled paper contaminated with industrial inks and coatings. These substances don't disappear after production. They remain embedded in the fibers. Even more concerning is the detection of PFAS, often called forever chemicals. In many conventional paper towels, these compounds do not break down in the body or the environment and have been associated with thyroid disease, weakened immune response, and increased cancer risk. Despite this, paper towels are marketed as clean, hygienic, and family-friendly, with little to no transparency or warning labels. That's why today on Shelf Truth, we're breaking down which paper towel brands may be doing more harm than good, and which alternatives actually prioritize safety, reduced chemicals, and transparency. Because with everyday products, the real danger isn't what's obvious. It's what quietly becomes part of your daily routine. Bounty is one of the most recognizable paper towel brands in the world, but its popularity hides several serious concerns. One of the biggest issues is chlorine bleaching. To achieve its bright white appearance, Bounty relies on chemical bleaching processes that can produce trace amounts of dioxins. Dioxins are persistent environmental toxins linked to hormone disruption, immune system damage, and increased cancer risk. Even when present in small amounts, experts warn that daily, repeated exposure is what makes them concerning. Another major risk is the potential presence of PFAS, often referred to as forever chemicals. Multiple independent tests on paper products have shown that highly absorbent and grease-resistant paper towels frequently contain PFAS. These chemicals accumulate in the body over time and have been associated with thyroid disorders, fertility problems, and developmental issues. Since many people use paper towels directly on food or to dry fruits and vegetables, this creates a direct pathway for exposure. Bounty also relies heavily on virgin wood pulp sourced from industrial forestry. To make these fibers soft yet tear-resistant, chemical binders and wet-strength resins are added. These substances remain in the paper and can transfer to hands and surfaces, especially when the towel is damp. An often overlooked detail is odor control and masking agents. Even when a product isn't advertised as scented, subtle fragrance compounds may still be present and are not always clearly disclosed, potentially triggering headaches, skin irritation, or breathing issues in sensitive individuals. What makes this more troubling is the lack of transparency. Bounty does not clearly disclose its bleaching methods, chemical additives, or PFAS testing. Consumers are expected to trust the brand name rather than verified information. For a product that regularly touches kitchen surfaces, food, and children's hands, this silence is a red flag. The softness and strength Bounty is known for come at a cost, one paid through heavy chemical processing and potential long-term exposure. Brawny markets itself as strong, durable, and nearly indestructible, but those very qualities point to heavy chemical intervention. The main concern with Brawny paper towels is the use of wet-strength chemicals. These additives prevent the paper from falling apart when wet, but they are typically synthetic resins that remain in the fibers and can transfer to hands, surfaces, or food when moisture is involved. Like many conventional brands, Brawny also uses chlorine-based bleaching to achieve a uniformly bright and clean appearance. This process can leave behind traces of dioxins. While each individual exposure may seem insignificant, paper towels are used multiple times every day, often in kitchens and around food, allowing these residues to accumulate over time. Another red flag is the potential presence of PFAS. Paper towels designed to be especially absorbent and long-lasting often rely on chemicals that repel grease and liquids, exactly the performance features Brawny heavily promotes. PFAS can migrate from the paper to hands, countertops, and food, creating a constant but invisible exposure source. Brawny primarily uses virgin wood fibers rather than recycled material. To make these fibers both soft and extremely strong, additional binders and conditioning agents are required. The company does not clearly disclose which substances are used, leaving consumers in the dark. Some users report skin irritation with frequent use, which may point to residual chemicals in the fibers, a particular concern for children and people with sensitive skin. Most notably, Brawny makes no clear claims about being PFAS-free, chlorine-free, or safer for health. At a time when cleaner alternatives openly share this information, the absence of transparency speaks volumes. The impressive strength of Brawny may feel convenient, but it is the result of aggressive chemical reinforcement rather than simple materials, and that strength comes with an unseen chemical burden. Scott paper towels are often marketed as a simple, budget-friendly option with no unnecessary extras, but the low price comes with trade-offs. One of the main concerns is the heavy use of recycled paper sourced from mixed waste streams. This material can contain residues from printing inks, adhesives, and industrial coatings that are not always fully removed during recycling. What appears eco-friendly on the surface carries its own hidden risk profile. To turn this recycled material into usable paper towels, chemical de-inking agents, binders, and strengthening additives are required. These substances help the paper hold together but remain in the fibers. Since Scott towels are frequently used wet, whether for cleaning or kitchen tasks, these chemicals can more easily transfer to hands, surfaces, and work areas. Scott also relies on chlorine-based bleaching to achieve a consistent light color. This process can generate dioxins, persistent environmental toxins, linked to hormone disruption and immune system stress. With products used multiple times every day, the concern is not a single use, but the cumulative exposure that builds quietly over time. Another issue is the use of wet-strength resins that prevent the towel from breaking down when damp. These additives do not disappear after manufacturing. When used on kitchen counters or near food, they can migrate from the paper to surfaces and items that come into direct contact with the body. Scott provides no clear information about PFAS testing, chlorine-free processing, or reduced chemical use. This lack of transparency is especially concerning given how widely and frequently these towels are used. Because Scott is inexpensive, people tend to use it in larger quantities, which further increases overall exposure. A low price does not mean low impact. In this case, it often reflects compromises in material purity and processing that consumers never see. Viva paper towels are heavily marketed as soft, gentle, and cloth-like, but that softness is not natural. Paper does not feel like fabric without intervention. To achieve this texture, Viva relies on chemical softeners and fiber treatments that remain in the product and can transfer to skin and surfaces during use. This engineered softness comes from conditioning agents that alter the fiber structure. For people with sensitive skin, allergies, or eczema, frequent contact can trigger irritation, especially when the towel is damp and pressed against the skin. The source of these reactions is often overlooked because paper towels are rarely suspected as the cause. Like many mainstream brands, Viva uses bleaching to create a bright, clean appearance. These processes are typically chlorine-based and can leave behind trace amounts of dioxins, chemicals associated with long-term health risks that accumulate with repeated exposure. There is also concern about the possible use of PFAS, particularly in towels promoted as highly absorbent or grease-handling. To boost performance, manufacturers often apply chemical treatments that improve liquid and oil uptake, increasing the likelihood of residual chemicals in everyday use. Viva does not market its paper towels as non-toxic, unbleached, or low-chemical, and ingredient disclosure remains vague. Production relies mainly on heavily processed virgin wood pulp that must be treated extensively to remain both soft and durable. The result is a product designed for comfort rather than minimal chemical exposure. The cloth-like feel of Viva may be appealing, but it is the outcome of technical manipulation, not simple materials. When softness becomes the main selling point, safety often takes a back seat. For a product used multiple times a day, that trade-off deserves closer scrutiny. Sparkle paper towels are marketed as strong, absorbent, and affordable, but those qualities are the result of heavy processing. To achieve high durability and absorption, Sparkle relies on chemically treated virgin fibers combined with performance-enhancing additives. These characteristics are engineered, not natural. A key concern is the use of wet-strength agents, synthetic resins that keep the paper from breaking down when wet. These substances remain bound to the fibers and can transfer to hands and surfaces through friction and moisture. During kitchen cleaning, this creates direct contact with chemical residues. The bright white color of Sparkle is another warning sign. It points to aggressive bleaching, typically chlorine-based, which can produce dioxins and other chlorinated byproducts. These compounds accumulate in the body over time and are linked to hormone disruption and immune system stress. Another overlooked issue is fiber shedding. Lower-cost paper towels like Sparkle tend to release more paper dust and microfibers. These particles can carry chemical residues and become airborne during tearing or dry wiping, adding an inhalation exposure that most people never consider. Sparkle does not disclose information about PFAS use, fragrance avoidance, or reduced chemical processing. Because of its low price, the towels are often used generously, which increases total exposure. The appeal of Sparkle lies in performance at a bargain cost, but that performance is achieved through industrial shortcuts that shift the burden to daily chemical contact. Great Value paper towels are among the most widely sold store brands in North America, largely because of their extremely low price and easy availability. That price, however, reflects clear compromises in materials and processing. One of the biggest concerns is the use of mixed fiber sources, including recycled paper of uncertain origin. These fibers can carry residues from printing inks, adhesives, and industrial coatings that are not always fully removed during processing. To compensate for the weakness of these recycled fibers, manufacturers add binders and strengthening agents. These synthetic additives help the paper hold together, but remain permanently in the product. Once the towel becomes wet, which is almost unavoidable in everyday use, these substances can migrate to hands, countertops, and areas where food is prepared. Great Value also uses chemical bleaching to achieve a clean, uniform white appearance. Bright paper towels are typically a sign of chlorine or chlorine-based bleaching, processes that can create trace amounts of dioxins. These persistent toxins build up in the body over time and are linked to long-term health concerns, especially with regular exposure. Another issue is the complete lack of safety claims. Great Value does not promote its paper towels as chlorine-free, PFAS-free, or low in chemical residues. This silence is especially concerning when many safer alternatives clearly label these features. Large package sizes and frequent use mean overall exposure can quietly increase without notice. Great Value functions as a low-cost disposable product, But that focus on cost reduction often pushes material purity aside. When the goal is to make something as cheap as possible, health considerations are rarely prioritized. For a product that routinely touches hands, surfaces, and sometimes food, this trade-off deserves serious attention. Seventh generation is often viewed as a safer, more eco-friendly alternative, but sustainability does not automatically mean chemical-free. Paper towels made from recycled fibers come with their own overlooked risks. These fibers are typically sourced from mixed paper streams like office and packaging waste, which can contain residues from inks, adhesives, coatings, and even flame retardants. To remove these contaminants, intensive cleaning and de-inking processes are required. While seventh generation avoids chlorine bleaching, alternative bleaching methods still rely on chemical treatments. Chlorine-free is frequently mistaken for chemical-free, but the two are not the same. The absence of chlorine does not guarantee a residue-free final product. Recycled fibers are also shorter and less stable than virgin fibers, which means additional binders and processing aids are needed to keep the paper intact. During use, these weaker fibers can break down more easily, releasing fine particles that may carry chemical residues onto surfaces or into the air. Another concern is the lack of a clear PFAS-free statement. Even brands with an environmentally conscious image sometimes use performance additives to improve absorbency and grease handling. Without full transparency, consumers have no way of knowing exactly what is being used. Green branding can create a false sense of security. Because seventh generation targets health and environment-focused households, these paper towels are often used in kitchens, around children, and in sensitive areas. That makes transparency even more important. While the brand performs better than many conventional options, the combination of recycling chemistry and limited disclosure still places it on the caution list, rather than in the truly low-risk category. Up to this point, we've looked at paper towel brands that hide behind convenience, low prices, or performance claims while relying heavily on chemical processing, bleaching, and questionable additives. These are the products people use without thinking, wiping kitchen counters, drying hands, or blotting food every single day. That routine use is exactly what makes them risky, because the exposure isn't occasional, it's constant. Many people assume disposable products are harmless because they're used briefly and then thrown away. In reality, short and frequent contact creates continuous exposure. Small amounts add up when a product touches skin, surfaces, and even the air multiple times a day. With paper towels, several risk factors overlap: chemical bleaching, PFAS, binders, recycling residues, and a lack of transparency. These brands all follow the same logic: maximize strength, softness, and absorbency while minimizing cost. Those traits are forced through processing, not achieved naturally. The more advanced a paper towel seems, the more likely chemistry is doing the work. This is where safer alternatives begin to look fundamentally different. Instead of asking which paper towel is the strongest or softest, the more important question is what materials are used and which chemicals are intentionally avoided. Some manufacturers choose to skip aggressive bleaching, PFAS, fragrances, and unnecessary additives, focusing instead on simpler materials and clearer disclosure. On Shelf Truth, conscious shopping doesn't mean replacing everything at once. It means identifying everyday products with the most frequent contact and making smarter choices there first. Paper towels fall squarely into that category. That's why it's worth knowing which alternatives genuinely reduce chemical exposure, rather than just repackage the same problems with better marketing. Who Gives a Crap takes a fundamentally different approach from conventional paper towel brands. Instead of forcing extreme softness or strength through chemical additives, the company focuses on simpler materials and reduced processing. Their paper towels are made from 100% recycled paper sourced from lower-risk inputs, deliberately avoiding glossy office paper and heavily printed materials. This significantly reduces the need for aggressive de-inking and bleaching chemicals. One of the most visible differences is the absence of chlorine bleaching. The slightly off-white color isn't a flaw, it's a sign of fewer chemical interventions. By skipping chlorine-based bleaching entirely, the risk of dioxin formation is removed. The brand also avoids added fragrances, wet-strength resins, and performance coatings that can transfer to skin and surfaces when the towel is wet. The towels don't feel luxury soft, and that's intentional. Less softness means fewer chemical softeners. They still absorb liquid effectively and perform well for everyday cleaning, but they don't try to imitate cloth or sponges. As a result, they break down more naturally and leave behind fewer residues. Transparency is another key difference. Who Gives a Crap clearly communicates how its products are made and what is intentionally left out. In an industry that often relies on vague claims and branding, this level of openness is rare. For a product that comes into constant contact with hands and kitchen surfaces, that restraint matters. For everyday use, this approach offers a simple way to reduce chemical exposure without sacrificing basic function. Less processing, fewer additives, and honest disclosure make this brand a standout among disposable paper towels. KABOO goes a step further by eliminating traditional wood pulp entirely. Instead, its paper towels are made from bamboo fibers, a fast-growing material that requires less chemical processing. Bamboo naturally produces longer and stronger fibers, which reduces the need for synthetic binders and wet-strength additives to achieve durability and absorbency. Because bamboo fibers are inherently absorbent, KABOO does not rely on performance-enhancing chemical coatings. The towels are produced without chlorine bleaching or added dyes, avoiding the formation of harmful byproducts associated with conventional whitening processes. Fragrances and unnecessary surface treatments are also left out, making them more suitable for kitchen use and food contact areas. KABOO places emphasis on minimizing PFAS use by avoiding treatments designed to artificially boost grease resistance. While many mainstream brands remain silent on this issue, KABOO's material choice reduces the need for such chemicals in the first place. The towels feel different from conventional options, less refined and less fabric-like, which is a sign that chemical softeners are not being used to manipulate texture. Rather than chasing luxury or extreme performance, KABOO focuses on reliable function. The towels clean surfaces, absorb spills, and break down more naturally after use. This straightforward approach lowers the chance of hidden residues becoming part of daily routines. For households looking to reduce chemical exposure without giving up disposable products entirely, KABOO represents one of the most consistent alternatives. Fewer additives, a different raw material, and restrained processing make it a strong contrast to conventional mass-market brands. Paper towels are one of the most underestimated sources of daily chemical exposure. They're cheap, widely available, and used without hesitation, which is exactly why their composition matters more than most people realize. When a product touches hands, kitchen surfaces, and sometimes food multiple times a day, even small differences in materials and processing add up quickly. The brands we covered rely heavily on bleaching, chemical reinforcement, contaminated recycled fibers, and limited transparency. Strength, softness, and absorbency are engineered rather than naturally achieved. That makes them convenient, but it also makes them problematic. The price at checkout is low, while the long-term cost remains invisible. The safer alternatives follow a different philosophy. They reduce chemical processing, avoid unnecessary additives, and clearly communicate how their products are made. They don't try to imitate cloth or promise extreme performance. Instead, they do the job with fewer interventions. That restraint is what lowers everyday exposure. Conscious shopping isn't about perfection. It's about choosing where change matters most. Products with constant contact deserve closer attention, and paper towels sit high on that list. Swapping a single everyday item may seem minor, but over time it can meaningfully reduce what quietly enters your home. If you want to keep uncovering which everyday household products carry hidden risks and which alternatives actually make sense, stay with Shelf Truth. This is only the beginning.